Hello, everyone, and welcome to the number one biking show. My name is Ghost, the man, the myth, the legend, and I'm your host today, together with my co-host
Tish here, a certified throttle junkie. Welcome to Biker's Corner, where we discuss more about two wheels, which is better than four wheels. If you're a new rider, aspiring rider, a pillion, sit back and relax. We have a lot in store for you.
Yeah. So let me speak personally. I am happy today because we have an important guest, and I'm happy because he also was able to join us for this podcast. And I think for these 15 minutes that we are going to roll it, let it be about him. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and let us flow on the story. His story about his biking story, since we are speaking about biking story. He's going to tell you or tell us today. Let's pretend we don't know Paul.
Yeah.
He's going to tell us what he does, what he envisions as himself, and what his biking story is, and how he got into it. So, Paul, welcome to the podcast, and it's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Ghost. Always a pleasure to talk biking with bike enthusiasts, and I'm always happy to tell my story. I have always wanted to ride as a young man. I tried to ride. I rode small bikes. I remember when I was 16, I had a moped. It was an old one. I built it, had it rebuilt, reboard, ordered parts. It was in the days when getting bike parts in Africa was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So we had to import it. I think this was a Moto Becan, something like that. It was a Peugeot.
Yeah, Peugeot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got the spares eventually from France. Did it up very nicely. Story ended in a tragedy. The day I finished fitting the bike, I painted it. I changed the seat. I first did the mechanicals when all were okay. Then I did the seat. I did the bodywork. I did everything. The day I completed, the bike got stolen. I was 16. Then I started work and decided now I'm going to buy myself a proper bike. First bike, the first one I wanted to buy was a Honda. It was called a Honda Bentley 100cc. And this was in those days a pretty nifty bike. And it was what people who were riding and had a little bit more money than the guys who bought the 80cc's. We tried to get
Yeah.
The bigger CC.
The big boy.
At the time, my grandmother said to me, but you don't have a black suit. Why would you buy a bike when you don't own
A black suit, yeah.
So I went to the office and I was talking to somebody and I said, I need to educate my grandmother. It's called a jacket, a riding jacket. No.
For a minute, I was lost.
This guy said to me, actually, she's talking about how you look in a casket.
Oh.
I said,
Oh.
Really? That pulled my ardor for a few years. And then the bug was always there. I couldn't let go. Then I think a few years later, about 10 years later, I got again another Honda. I can't remember the name, but it was a cruiser. It was 2,500cc.
A cruiser.
From 100cc?
From 100cc.
Whoa.
And I hadn't ridden for like over 10 years.
Wow.
So there was this guy selling, he was selling a bike he had bought. He was a colleague from France, and we were working together in Abidjan. Then he decided he was going home. He had finished his tour of duty. He left the bank and was going back to France. So the bike was available at a very, very reasonable price. So I told him, nobody's buying it, I'm buying it. Now comes the second story. I head home and I tell my wife, Marie, I found this bike and I love it. I've fallen in love. I really have to buy this bike. And then she said to me, you know what? We need to fly home. And you tell your people that we sat together in the front of the plane going to Abidjan. I have no intention of coming back with me in front and you in the hole. If I'm going to chance that, your parents have to accept it.
Did they?
Needless to say, I went back to my friend and I said to him, sorry, I can't buy the bike.
Oh.
That was my second attempt. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to forget about riding. When I turned 50, I said, you know what? I've done 50 except the one thing I've always wanted to do, which is to ride. So I think I'm going to ride. So I came home. I was then working in Botswana. I came home one evening and I found Marie on the phone. And she paused and she said, how are you? I said, I'm good. How's everything? I said, good. Then I said, I want to ride. You're going to start riding classes? I'm going to ride. So she screamed, you must be crazy. It's a midlife crisis. I mean, behave yourself. What am I going to tell the children? An old man like you at 50.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the person at the other end of the phone was my daughter.
Yeah.
And she said, Mom, why are you yelling? And she said, your dad wants to ride. And she said, but she's always wanted to ride. Let him live his dream. You only live once. Let him get it out of his system. We're all old now. I mean, he's pretty old. I'm sure he'll just start riding and then he'll quit. Big mistake. Yes. Fast forward a few months later, I got a license. My first proper bike riding license was in Botswana.
Botswana, yeah. Okay.
Botswana. I learned on a Bajaj.
Which size?
I think it was.
It has to be 100 or 150.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The maximum Bajaj is 150 cc.
The 150.
It's a smaller one, yeah, 100.
Yeah.
100.
I learned how to ride on that. I went for my license. I got a license. And then the first bike I bought was a Ninja.
Kawasaki.
Yeah, a Ninja, 400cc.
Is that a touring?
500cc.
Yeah.
It was a
Okay.
500.
Yeah, speed bike.
upright between street and speed.
So it's a sport touring, most likely. Yeah.
Small bike. It's pretty small, but very nifty. Very, very nifty.
This is Botswana.
This was in Botswana. I mean, I would, on an average Saturday, just going out on a jaunt, I would do easily 400, 450 kilos. I'd go 200.
Come back 200.
200.
400. And I'd be home and I could feel it so good. I mean, I love the bike. And I learned how to really ride on that.
On that bike, on a Ninja. Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned something which is very, very important. Starting to ride at 50. You know, not everyone has a story similar to yours. Most start at, let's say, 20.
Yeah.
This guy, he had, he started in his 20s. For you, you started when you wanted to start. It's not about peer pressure and all that kind of thing. You wanted to be there and you wanted to ride, which is the important part. Now, you've been around East Africa and I want to bring you back home because we really want to focus mostly on East Africa. You have a very interesting story about East Africa, from the time in Nairobi all the way to Rwanda, where we are shooting this podcast from. I really don't know where you're going to start because it's a lot, but this is your time.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think I started from the beginning with my little Ninja. Interesting thing is I took it to Nairobi. Yes.
From Botswana.
I took it.
Yeah.
And in when I got to Nairobi, I decided I needed a bigger bike. Because the Ninja was a fast bike. And I had by then realized that my riding style and what I wanted to do was more to cruise,
enjoy adventure,
to go to places rather than
arrive and
get in there.
I wanted to go to places. So I then transitioned. I kept the Ninja, and I bought a Suzuki V-Strom 1000.
That's a big bike.
I love that.
Yeah.
In fact, I was.
That's a big bike.
With that bike. With that bike, I did most of Kenya.
Yeah.
I mean, I would on a typical day do Nairobi, Kisii, Kisumu, and back. I mean, this was my ride.
In a day.
In a day.
Yeah. And with opinion.
Wow.
Did that a number of times. I had a friend who loved bikes, but didn't want to ride. And didn't mind
being a pillion at that point.
And I was happy with that. And well, pretty game person, pretty game. I remember once we got to Kisumu, and we were going towards the lakeside for fish. It had just rained, and I entered into some mud, and the rear tire of the Suzuki. The Suzuki was a great bike on time. Very good. But the 1000 was really not a bike to take off-road. It was top heavy, and it didn't handle off-road well. The suspension wasn't right for it. But it was great at touring. And I used it. I rode all over Kenya with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story. I want to hear. Of course, me, I know the story, and maybe Tish knows or doesn't know. I want to hear is it the Lokicha story where he got stuck in, would we call it mud, or you guys were crossing?
Okay.
Yeah.
To continue the story, I continued riding in Kenya. Then I got transferred to Rwanda. And there's a friend of mine in Kenya who would always lend me a small Chinese bike. And I'll ride with it. Every time I went back, I'd ride with it. And then he upgraded. And then I bought a bike to keep in Kenya, which is a 650 twin. 650 twin
BMW.
And now I would plan rides from here. And then go take that bike, fly in, take that bike, and then ride with a group that we ended up calling Tour de France. It was pretty much like weekend rides here in Botswana, where it's not a club, it's a group of
interested people. Yeah.
And one of the rides we did was this one to Ghana. I mean, it didn't seem to be a particularly challenging ride when we set off. I mean, it was a very nice road. We rode through Nakuru, went up to Kitale, and went down to, I think it's Lokicha.
Yeah.
Just beyond it, there's a turn off to go to this place, Lake Turkana. And there's a camp there, very nice camp at the end of the road. But it was fairly sandy. It was very, very sandy. So I think it was roughly around 18 kilometers.
Of sand.
Yes. It's 18 kilometers. And it was hard spots, and then there was some sand. Again, the 650 is a great bike, but it's fairly heavy.
It is.
It's fairly heavy. It's a 650, but I think it's about 200 kilos. And it's more of a street bike. It had, I think, 19-inch tires, so it didn't have the proper tires.
Yeah.
So needless to say, it was a struggle. I mean, getting there, a ride that should take what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes back, 18 km. We ended up, I think, spending about 3 hours or so getting there. It was very nice, but when we got there, it was worth it. The view, the habitat, everything that we ride for, it was there. I mean, it was a very rewarding experience. And we spent 3 days there. Now coming back, that's where I started. Coming back, it rained. It rained, and then there were flash floods. So where the road was became a river, a literal river, up to our knees. So at first we tried coming home. He